you feel about that number? 600,000 pay-per-view buys here in the States, about 300,000 globally. Now understand, here in the States, the pay-per-view was $79.99, $80. Over in other territories, I believe on BT Sport, it was 25 quid, something like that, 24.95. Street Controversy with FightView360.com. The first fight did an estimated, here, let's go through the articles here. The first fight did an estimated 300,000 pay-per-view buys. I forgot how much we paid for that. Was that $74.99? 75 bucks, or was that 70 bucks? So 300,000 pay-per-view buys for the first fight, give or take, plus or minus. The second fight did about 850,000 pay-per-view buys, plus or minus, with another 300,000.
How dare you?
How dare you? 600K pay-per-view buys at $80 each is amazing, plus UK also. Yeah, no, it's great. In this landscape, those are some great numbers for boxing. But at what cost? How much did it cost the networks? Truthfully, we're not supposed to care about this stuff. I really don't like talking about the fighters' money anyway. How much were both of these fighters guaranteed to make? So the second fight here in the States did about 850,000 pay-per-view buys. And the third fight, 600,000 pay-per-view buys. Now, combined with the gate for all three fights, the trilogy brought in what? Upwards to 150 for all three fights, in revenue, ticket sales, just crude math off the top of my head. 150, 60, 70 million dollars overall. Now that's for all three fights. And of course, there was a steep decline. You can't really say steep depending on the reported numbers. Second fight, 850,000. Third fight for a guy who got knocked out, Deontay Wilder, or stopped in the second fight. It wasn't that much of a drop off compared, toward the release numbers. Hold on, let me plug my fake thing in here. Take time out, like the video, subscribe. I haven't done a Wilder video since I did my Wilder Radical video, and a lot of people were pissed at that. You know what? I haven't seen so many excuses for a boxer in my lifetime. And I like Deontay Wilder, but as we talked about in my previous videos, I think he fed into the hype and fed into the bullshit. Was he trying to play the villain? Was he trying to, make it a racial thing? But I just didn't like it, And I'm sorry if I wasn't, as I've got a lot of comments, staying on code. You know what that means, right? Pretty much, I'm supposed to bullshit for this motherfucker. I'm supposed to bullshit and lie for him and live in his bizarro world with all these excuses and all that. Like, nah, I'm not with it. So if that's me staying off code or not on code, then I'm going to stay as far away from on code as possible. Like, bro, I never seen some shit like that before. Like, ew. So with that being said, Wilder's not retiring. We don't know. See, here's the thing. They can say they're going to be back all they want, but until I see him in the ring and he's planning a late spring, early summer return, and we're going to talk about possible opponents, then, he got his will broken. He didn't just get beat up in both fights. He got pulled out in one and just knocked out. Like, he was asleep. He was asleep in the third fight. He was asleep. And just to hear about, and people still doing it on both sides. People still making the videos about the count and all that shit. People saying, no, Fury had a long count too. Wilder both had long count. You got other motherfuckers saying, nah, the referee, not knowing the rules. I'm not doing no more debunking. I don't do that shit. I didn't do that shit for Wilder versus Fury 2. I'm not going to do it for Fury versus Wilder 3. So this is probably going to be my last video on it, for real, because I don't get no comfort of talking about it. But it is news to talk about. You see what I'm saying? Me personally, I think that Wilder's going to come back and fight somebody along the lines of a Charles Martin. I've been wanting that fight for a long time. Wilder come back, fight Charles Martin, somebody along those lines. And then after that, fuck it. Wilder come back, fight Charles Martin or Robert Helenius. Then after that is going to be his big fight, because he does generate a lot of money now. And I want to know, we're going to have to talk about too, like where does his boogeyman status lie now, because are people really afraid of him anymore? I mean, yeah, you should be, because he still can knock you the fuck out. Remember how he hit Fury so hard that the shockwave ripple effect of the fat just went all the way, like he felt it, like Fury up here, he was cool. But then once that ripple of fat got down to his legs, like that shit just gave out. Like that power, bro. He will, that shit ain't no joke, man. So I think that, in a perfect world, Deontay Wilder comes back April, May, June against somebody along the lines of a Charles Martin. And I'm looking at the rankings right now. Or a Robert Helenius, or even if he really wants to wet our beak a little bit more, then maybe a Michael Hunter. And then sometime later on next year, because they're going to try to get him back on pay-per-view. And I'm guessing they're going to probably try to angle him towards possibly a pay-per-view against Andy Ruiz in-house fight. And right there, I think that Andy Ruiz would probably beat him. I'm not saying that Andy Ruiz may not get his ass knocked out, but Andy Ruiz is a solid inside pressure fighter. And he's got fast hands. He can catch Deontay Wilder with some shit. That's not, that's something of note. Also, as you can see here, the WBC released their new rankings. As of, what was it, a couple days ago? I believe they came out yesterday. Deontay Wilder's ranked number 1. Now, let me explain to you for the casuals. No, it's not your fault that you don't know. But just because you're ranked number 1 does not mean that you're the mandatory. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that you're a mandatory. It just means you're number 1. So he would have to have an eliminator, which they would probably do him versus Andy Ruiz, because they're both number 1 and number 2, but win. Now, as I said, I'm not real confident that Deontay Wilder comes back, anytime soon. They're saying all the right things, and you got to think he's got a, PR team, multiple, double managers, him and Al Heyman. I don't believe, like, it's, until I hear and see, like, that, like, he's back in training camp, it's hard for me to believe that he's going to be back in 2022. Just the way that he moved between like the second fight and the third fight, and then getting beat up like that takes some time off of your career, man. That takes some time off of you. Nah, I think Michael Hunter would get knocked out by Wilder. Don't disrespect him. Even though he been on some weird shit with the excuses and all that. But one thing for sure is he hasn't made no excuses yet. Hey, let's go read the Instagram post he put out. Wow, what a hell of a night. I would like to first and foremost thank God for allowing me to give the world another part of me that's driven with passion and determination. I would like to thank my team and my fans for sticking by my side through this long process. I would be lying if I said that I wasn't disappointed in the outcome, but after reflecting on my journey, I now see that what God wanted me to experience I now see that what God wanted me to experience is far greater than what I expected to happen. We didn't get the win, but a wise man once said victories are within the lessons. I've learned that sometimes you have to lose to win. Although I wanted to win, I enjoy seeing the fans win even more. Hopefully, I proved that I'm a true warrior and a true king in this sport. Hopefully, we prove that no matter how hard you get hit with trials and tribulations, you can always pick yourself up and live the fight again for what you believe in. Last but not least, I would like to congratulate Gypsy King Tyson Fury for his victory, and thank you for the great historical memories that will last forever. I don't think he wrote that shit, but still, I'm glad that it was said. He signed off on it. I'm glad, that it's over. I've said it before that I'm glad that the fight is over. It was very stressful to cover, especially being a black man that, You know, I've been covering Tyson Fury for fucking years. I've been covering Tyson Fury for 10 years, bro. I've seen this coming for years. I was talking about it years ago. So I never knew or thought that it would turn into this race bullshit that we got going on here, where if it's like if you're the black man talking about Deontay Wilder's going to lose, or giving him his up, go giving him his comeuppance for making all those excuses and trolling him after he loses, then what the fuck? But we can say that he's not marketable, and there's not, big fights for him still to be able to make. Like, once again, I would still like to see him versus Anthony Joshua. Styles make fights. I think that he can knock out Anthony Joshua if he don't get knocked out first. But yeah, I do think he can beat Anthony Joshua. Not outbox Anthony Joshua, but and it's not the first time I'm saying this, I've said it before, that I think that, the styles. One thing I've learned about Deontay Wilder is you don't want to try to box him, or you're going to find out like Luis Ortiz did and get iced. You don't want to try to do what Tyson Fury did in the first fight, or you're going to potentially get iced and be put to sleep for a little while, staring up in the rafters. You got to crowd his space. His arms are long. He don't have, the best of fundamentals. You can beat Deontay Wilder on the inside. But let him line up those shots, especially when he start pawing with the jab, like, bro, that's a rangefinder right there. So somebody like Anthony Joshua, I think that he would eat one straight down the pipe and not get up. My personal opinion. He should put his health first and step down. I mean, see, let's go pull up the resume. I mean, he, in my opinion, now let's just really, really look at it. 42, 2-1 with 41 KOs. That's magnificent right there in itself, depending on who he's knocked out. He's still been knocking us out. So when you look at it, these last 3 fights, even if he beat Luis Ortiz, he was taking some damage in that Luis Ortiz fight. In fact, as you can see, he was losing on the cards. So he's got 3 fights right here where he took a nice significant amount of damage. Dominic Breazeale, he just got him out of there. The first Tyson Fury fight, so basically you got really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of his last 6 fights where he actually really had to fight and took some beatings in them. That's not being talked about enough. And then weighing in at 238 pounds, when I saw the weigh-in, because I didn't get a chance to cover the weigh-in, but when I saw the weigh-in, I was thinking to myself, okay, so he's trying to make sure that Fury, when he goes to sleep, he stays asleep. But also, and you saw it all across social media and in the comments, we were all concerned about, well, how is that weight going to help him if the fight goes past round 6? And you can see by that time, he was pretty much gone, It seemed plenty of times early in the fight that Tyson Fury could have finished him off. So one thing we could never take away from Deontay Wilder, so even though he got beat up this fight, we never, at least I never questioned his heart inside of the ring. And by firing Mark Breland and throwing him just under the whole wheels, everything under the bus, without having Mark Breland and Malik Scott, he got what he wanted, put to sleep. He wanted to go out on his shield. He got what he wanted. But how many years did that take off of his life, or his boxing life, his career? So this is my first video since I did my very controversial video where when you're a black man, you can't have your opinion on another black fighter who's supposed to be the Black King, Deontay Wilder. It wasn't like, bro, I said he was toxic, and you can't say he wasn't. Like, he was feeding a lot of shit, that pretty much was, how can I say, for one, detrimental to both of their careers, him and Tyson Fury's. And I really didn't care too much about him not showing Tyson Fury love and all, and after the fight, needed some time to cool down, I guess. But yeah, nah, Wilder ain't no bum. You're tripping. But yeah, man, that shit just was like really, really getting under my skin. I'm thinking like, bro, you keep coming back talking about this glove bullshit, and then like during fight week, they was trying to start some more glove bullshit. So just so happens he decided to switch back to gloves that he used in the past, horsehair gloves, to let his punches be felt more, and then he ends up breaking his hand. He ends up breaking his hands. Crazy. So even that right there, it's like, okay, all right, when will he be back? Let me take care of something real quick. There we go. 1 minute. Get this guy out of here forever. Yeah, I'm not with the trolling shit today, man. I'm not with it today. Give him a whole bunch of them. So yeah, I think that the proper route to return is, and as we talked about, if you don't know, the WBC has ranked him #1. No, that does not mean he's the mandatory. But here's how I think it's going to go down. Tyson Fury should have to fight and should welcome the fight with the winner of Dillian Whyte versus Otto Wallin. Now, for some reason, and I got to do a whole video on it to talk about it. For some reason, man, I feel like Otto Wallin might beat Dillian Whyte, yo. Dillian Whyte is always, he's up and down. You never know what Dillian Whyte you're going to get, So, but let's say in a perfect world, right? And the way things are set up right now. Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte in April or May, right? Wilder returns around that time, April or May, against a Robert Helenius, a Andy Ruiz, which I doubt it'll be Andy Ruiz. They want to get him a win, a solid, clear win under his belt. So April or May, Wilder returns against Charles Martin, Robert Helenius. Tyson Fury faces Dillian Whyte in that same time frame. Joshua versus Usyk, or Usyk Joshua 2, happens between March, April, May, pretty much in that same time frame. The winner of Fury versus Whyte fights the winner versus Joshua versus Usyk 2, which I believe is going to be Usyk. That'll be September, no later than October, November of next year. Wilder around that same time, if he beats Helenius or any of those guys that I mentioned, then he fights Andy Ruiz, and then the winner of that, in the beginning, early 2023, undisputed will have the first title defense. I really think they're going to build towards that, because also it's an in-house fight as well. Meaning Wilder versus Ruiz. But I don't think they're going to do Wilder versus Ruiz straight out the gate, because you got to think Wilder just lost 2 straight fights, So I think that Wilder's going to have some type of build-up fight, when he returns. He's saying he's returning. And then his next fight by mid to late next year will be a pay-per-view. But for me, it's pretty much set what Tyson Fury should do. Tyson Fury fights Dillian Whyte if Dillian Whyte wins against Otto Wallin. And then the winner of that, because after all, the winner is going to be the mandatory. And then the winner of that in September, October, November, fight the winner of Usyk versus Joshua 2. And then by the end of 2022, we have an undisputed champion. And then next year, that year after, 2023, is when the mandatory should start to play in. Because if you look at it, the heavyweight division is pretty top heavy. I mean, even though you got guys coming up, but 2023 and 2024 should be filled with mandatories. But it's dependent on how long Tyson Fury or Usyk or Joshua, whoever wins between them guys, wants to fight. Because I can see Tyson Fury being a reigning champion. And right now, I have to go ahead and say I have Tyson Fury defeating Alexander Usyk because Tyson Fury ain't going to try to box Usyk. Even though he has the ability to, he's going to use that 6'9", 270 plus pound frame to push Usyk back and try to lean on him like Joshua should have been doing to tire him out. Joshua got this shit in the middle of the ring trying to outbox the dude. And yes, I think it's pretty clear as day if you haven't heard. Joshua's been making his rounds around gyms in the States. He's visited Eddie Reynoso's gym. Of course, Eddie Reynoso trains Andy Ruiz, Canelo Alvarez, Ryan Garcia, other fighters, Frank Sanchez. He's recently met with Ronnie Shields, who trains Charlo and Lubin. He also met with Virgil Hunter. So you have to think, well, is he going to base himself in Hollywood? Because if he gets an American trainer, you know, you would think that he would have to base himself here in the States because those trainers have other obligations. For example, to Eddie Reynoso, if he was to choose Eddie has a pretty full stable of fighters. Like, where's he going to find the time? And a guy like Joshua deserves his own, like, time. You see what I'm saying? And AJ's at a point right now where if he loses to Usyk, he goes way to the back of the line, you know? Now, I haven't given up on Wilder, but I did have to air him out, though, and say what I had to say in that video because it was blatant. Like, you got these tapeworms leeching off of his name. Like, it was blatant. These tapeworms leeching off of his name. You know, him and Tyson Fury just making shit up to keep their pockets fat. Like, bro. And then he think that they really was his fans. They don't give a fuck about him. But yeah, guys to look out for in the heavyweight division. Um, Daniel Dubois is going to have to take on Trevor Bryan. The winner of that will be the next WBA mandatory. We don't know what Manuel Charr fits in. Andy Ruiz, I really think that Wilder versus Andy Ruiz are going to have to go through each other to be the next WBC mandatory. That's what I really think. The IBF situation, I don't know why these fighters are running away from a clear-cut title shot right there from guys like Charles Martin, Felix Hergovitz, Michael Hunter, all had a chance to fight in eliminators. And they all, for some reason, IBF still doesn't have a mandatory. The WBO's next mandatory is Joe Joyce. And we're talking about the next guys in line. You know, Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, Andy Ruiz. You know, Joseph Parker is still in the mix, weirdly enough. Luis Ortiz, I don't really count him too much. Like, I don't think he's ever going to get a title shot. Adam Kownacki's out the mix. He had his face broken. Felix Hergovitz, I'm interested in what he's going to be doing. You know, and those are like the really, like the movers and shakers in the division. And then you have another tier of guys, another tier like Frank Sanchez, who I think should fight Luis Ortiz, Michael Hunter, Ajit Kabial, Tony Yoka. So the division is deep, but it's not really deep of like, you know, guys that are ready to be stars or champions yet. You see what I'm saying? Or at least that's the way I look at it. By the way, down below in the description box, I put some links to the WBC's channels app, powered by the Vive Network. Some big things coming. I'm still fine-tuning some things. I've been really building things in the background. And frankly, even though I did take last week off, this has been the most consistent 6 months I've had on the channel since I first started the channel in 2014. That's crazy to me when I think about it. Some other news, tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, you know, about 45 minutes from now tomorrow, Canelo's going to be having a media workout. So that's going to be what's up. We're going to be here streaming it. Who reneged on a bet? Oh, I'm about to start cussing people out. I don't like when y'all bet, even though I don't gamble and y'all don't pay up. So what else was I saying? We are here also Thursday for the Secure Jamel Herring versus Shakur Stevenson press conference. I'm interested in that fight. I'm still on the fence. My heart is saying pick Jamel, but every time I go with my heart, my predictions be wrong. So if you notice, my predictions been real. They've been tight lately, because I've been really talking common sense and not going with the heart. But my heart's saying Jamel, man. But up here, it's like, yo, Shakur gonna win. Jamel Herring's 35 years old. Even though he's gotten better over the years, especially since he's been with Bomac and in that Crawford camp. He's got solid fundamentals. Like he can box, he can jab, he can box. But my heart's saying, my mind is saying Secure. Ugas can be upset all he wants, but if he's not fighting Spence, then he got to fight his mandatory. You see what I'm saying? Because if you don't know, a unification trumps a mandatory. So, bro, like, I don't know what he's bitching and complaining for. And also, I understand where
How dare you?
Thank you. I understand where he's coming from. Thanks, Ronald, for the super chat. In regards to being in the tournament. And basically, you know what I think he wants? He wants to be able to fight whoever he wants. And if you don't know, the WBA has been forced to get rid of all of those underling belts. So since they have 4 of them in the division, actually, what was it? 5. Manny champion at recess, Ugas super, Jamal James the world. No, Jamal James was the world. Then you had the interim with Stanionis, and then you had like a gold champion. I don't know, but it was a mess. It was a mess. But they had to make a tournament. He doing that long ass video. It's like, bro, like we don't know when Spence is coming back. And I'm sure the WBA would allow for him to fight Errol Spence, for a unification. But we don't know when Errol Spence is coming back. So to me, his argument seems like a little unfounded. It's like, bro, like, fight your mandatory. And I'm interested in Jamal James versus Butiev. And I would like to see Ugas versus Stanionis. There you go. Amantas Stanionis. There we go. Getting it going. But yeah, I got Usyk defeating Joshua in the rematch. Eddie Hearn says he wants it to happen in February or March. I don't believe that. I believe they're going to give Joshua as much time as he needs, because another video I have to do is, did you notice like how Matchroom stable is getting depleted? Remember, MTK Global fighters now are seemingly fighting on Boxer and on Sky Sports. Guys like Florian Marku. And with Joshua losing, like what this, after Joshua, who is really the next big name for Eddie Hearn in Matchroom? That's something to talk about. And don't get me started on Mikey Garcia. A nice, sweet, succulent cherry going wrong. But then again, I was never high on Mikey Garcia at 147 pounds anyway. That was crazy. I think he should immediately rematch Sandor Martin. By the way, the WBA are having a press conference with Sandor Martin at midnight tonight, Eastern time. I believe, yeah, midnight tonight, Eastern time is what the email said. Crazy shit. If you guys want to hear from Sandor Martin, it's supposed to be his his winning ceremonial press conference. There wasn't no belt. I am looking forward to O'Kali versus Breedis. That's supposed to be in talks and going on next for the Cruiserweight WBO and IBF titles. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. O'Kali is the next Eddie Hearn, but he don't really move no tickets, no views, no nothing. Of course, trainers would want to train him, train Anthony Joshua, but, it's all about who Anthony Joshua picks. So right now, we know that he visited Ronnie Shields, Eddie Reynoso, and Virgil Hunter. So he would have to, base himself here in the States. But let me get up out of here. I'm T-Street Controversy with FightView360.com. We will be back with some more videos tomorrow, and we will be here at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the live Canelo media workout. Live tomorrow. He's working out for the media. We'll be streaming it. Take your time out, like the video, subscribe, and T-Street Controversy.